Jess, trying to remember how they got there.
Hello. Done na ako sa kailangan kong gawin. Fairly quick, fairly easy. So, laro pa ako. We're living together. Kakatapos ko lang to sa isang boss fight dito sa ano pangalan na to? Saan ako? Yeah, Cliff Bottom Catacombs. So, most of the time may maririnig kayo nagsasalita sa likod kasi nanonood ako. At wala kayong magagawa kasi gusto kong manood.
But neither one of them can recall a single detail about the attack. Looking around the room, he quickly notices that there's only one thing not covered in filth, a brand new clock up on the wall, so whoever did this clearly wants them to know the time. While Lawrence tries the door, Adam checks his pockets, and that's when he makes a game-changing discovery. He's been given an envelope with his name on it, containing a small cassette tape that says "Play Me." Lawrence got an envelope too, but his is even more interesting. Because besides just a tape, there's also a single 357 Magnum cartridge and a small key hidden inside. They try the key first, but it doesn't seem to work on any of their locks, causing Adam to chunk it down to the floor in a fit of gamer rage. Instead, he decides to go for the tape recorder being held by the dead guy, and although it's sitting far out of his reach, he's able to pull it over after several attempts by using his shirt and the bathtub plug to reel it in. Adam plays his tape first, but instead of answers, all that he hears is some crazy guy with a creepy voice
Fuck you!
Poor life decisions. Tensions are already high, but things get even worse when they listen to Lawrence's tape. The same voice wants him to kill Adam before 6 o'clock. Otherwise, his wife Allison and daughter Diana will die instead. They're given one more clue. X marks the spot. And with that, the voice says that the time for their game has begun. Okay, man, talk about a rude wake-up call. On one end, we've got Lawrence, who's calm, collected, and trying to keep things under control. And then there's Adam, who decided to take the immediately start screaming like a 6-year-old girl approach. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be freaking out too, but it seems like there are a few obvious options that these two could try if they just slow down for just 1 second and think things through. First things first, we need to start by carefully checking every inch of the room that we can for any hidden tools or clues that might help us escape, especially the X marking the spot that Jigsaw mentioned at the end of Lawrence's tape. It'd be better to work together with the other guy for now, since we're both in the same situation, but we don't want to get too comfortable either, because there might be a time when things take a turn for the worse, and we need to make some tough decisions. Plus, for all that either of them knows right now, the guy standing across from you could be the one that brought you in there in the first place. So we need to be careful who to trust. After getting our bearings, the next step is to start attacking the problems one at a time in an organized and strategic way. Before we can go anywhere, we'll need to get out of the chains first. But instead of focusing on the chains themselves, I would pay more attention to the locks and rusty pipes that they're attached to. Those types of padlocks can be easily broken just by applying enough force. So I'd look around for anything nearby that I could use as an improvised tool, and try to either smash them open the old-fashioned way, or pick the lock if we wanted to try that approach. Now, my guy Lawrence here is great at coming up with ideas when he's busy bossing Adam around. But where's that same brain power when it comes to himself? There's an obvious solution staring at him right in the face here. If Adam could reach the tape player, then why doesn't Lawrence try to reach the revolver next? I would try to tear some of those thinner pipes off of the wall behind him to give him some extra reach. Or just taking the same approach as Adam and using some of my clothes or belts tied together, which should work fine, especially if I find something heavy nearby to add some weight to it. If he could get his hands on that weapon, then that would open up all kinds of possibilities. He could shoot out the lock or just kill Adam and call it a day. Although it might be better to leave him alive for now, just in case he needs a meat shield later on. In the meantime, I'd also take turns just shouting for help as loud as we could. It might seem silly, yeah, but it literally couldn't hurt to try. On the bright side, at least they have 8 whole hours to figure it out, which is way more than some of Jigsaw's other victims are going to get. So, when you look at it that way, they're actually kind of lucky for how this game was set up. The situation in the room is awkward to say the least, but Lawrence here noticed something about his tape that makes him think twice. Playing it back, he's able to make out the words, "Follow your heart," whispered quietly at the end of the message. And sure enough, there's a heart traced in poo-poo right there on the front of the toilet tank. It's up to Adam to reach on in there and start searching. But after digging around for a minute in the most disgusting water imaginable, these two geniuses suddenly realize that they might want to check underneath the lid. Ah, there we go. A black trash bag containing 2 rusty hacksaws. Not exactly what you'd call a Christmas present, but at least they're getting somewhere. Their first instinct is to start working away at their chains, but the saws are too weak to make even a scratch in the thick metal no matter how hard they try. Adam here goes so hard that he ends up completely breaking his, and chunks it across the room where it shatters off a corner of the mirror. As for Lawrence, he decides that he better stop before he breaks his saw too, and that's when he suddenly understands the terrifying truth. The saws weren't meant for them to cut through the chain at all, no. They were meant for cutting off their own feet, putting the pieces together. He realizes that they must have been taken hostage by a notorious criminal who's still on the loose. And he knows this because Lawrence himself was once a suspect in the case. 5 months ago, a team of detectives began to uncover a series of grisly death traps, including one where a man was forced to crawl through a maze of barbed wire and killed in the process. At every crime scene, they'd always find the same 2 things: a cassette tape with a message for the victim, and a jigsaw puzzle piece cut out of their skin. Although the news started calling him the Jigsaw Killer, the truth is that he's never technically killed anybody. Instead, he forces his victims to play by the rules in his deadly games, offering them a slim chance to survive if they somehow complete the challenge. It's a way to teach them a new appreciation for their wasted lives. Okay. This guy is seriously like the worst therapist ever. I mean, I get the point that he's trying to make, but there's gotta be a better way to teach people a lesson than forcing them to compete in the most complicated death traps that the world has ever seen. Am I right or am I right? Anyway, Lawrence here just made an absolutely terrifying observation. He seems to think that the hacksaws were meant for them to cut off their own feet. And while I can see how this would technically get them out of their current predicament, I can't say that it's definitely the best idea for several reasons. Going through with something like that already sounds bad enough, but the reality of the situation would be worse than I think any of us could even imagine. Besides the obvious, excruciating pain that you're going to be facing, severe blood loss, and the risk of even going into shock, you might not think that losing a foot would seem all that bad compared to spending the rest of your life in this horrific-ass Ebola dungeon. Your feet actually contain several of your arteries, which means that you could bleed out in minutes if you were able to actually get all the way through. The rapid blood loss and extreme pain could also cause you to go into shock and lose consciousness, which is the last thing that you would want to happen when every second means the difference between life and death.
Stop summoning people!
If they were going to try it, there are some strategies that Lawrence and Adam could use to increase their chances of survival. You're going to want to choose a spot as close to your ankle as possible, since the bones there are thinner and easier to cut through. God damn! Just thinking about it. Before starting, it's crucial to apply a tourniquet as tightly as possible just above the cut point to minimize the blood flow. Using a shirt or belt should do the trick. The key would be to try and do it as quickly as possible. You know, like ripping off a Band-Aid, except 100,000 times works. Once it was all said and done, they need to immediately apply pressure to the wound and get medical attention as fast as they possibly can, since even if they were lucky to survive the first 5 minutes, they'd still only have about 2 hours at the most before things really started to go downhill. Trust me, I've been watching this movie on DVD since 2004. I've thought about it a lot, you know? With that being said, going footless definitely isn't the best strategy. Instead, I'd try something obvious that they're both overlooking and just use that saw on the logs or the rusty pipe. Those should both be much easier to get through than the thick steel chain. And even thin pieces from Adam's broken saw could be used to try and pick the locks or somehow pry them open. We also can't let all of this craziness distract us from keeping an eye on the other guy in the room. If Lawrence had been paying attention, then he would have noticed that Adam here clearly found something else besides just the 2 hacksaws in the bag, and deliberately hid it from him in the bathtub where he can't see. Whether you choose to call him out on it right away or not is a different story, but you need to be paying enough attention to notice something like that if you're going to make it out of here in one piece. At some point during their investigation, the detectives come across another test tube. This one built for an insurance scammer named Mark. As a way to teach him a lesson, Jigsaw poisoned the man and brought him to a basement where he stashed the only antidote in a locked safe at the center of the room. His only chance for survival was to find the combination hidden somewhere in the hundreds of numbers painted all over the walls. But every inch of the floor was covered in broken glass, and Mark himself had been covered in a flammable liquid, making his only source of light, a small candle with an open flame, also his greatest danger. Needless to say, Mark here didn't make it, but the crime scene gave the detectives some interesting leads. For one, a peephole cut out of the wall told them that Jigsaw here likes to watch his games play out live and in person. But what was even more interesting was the pen that they found belonging to none other than our good old buddy Dr. Lawrence Gordon. Lawrence himself was busy giving some interns the rundown on his patient, John Kramer, who was there receiving treatment for an inoperable brain tumor, when he was called over to the intercom to come to his office right away. To his surprise, he found city detectives David Tapp and Stephen Singh already there waiting for him, and they immediately started grilling him about his alibi from the night before. Although he wasn't exactly innocent himself, Lawrence knew that he hadn't committed any crimes. But when the detectives showed him that they found his pen at the latest Jigsaw scene, he had no choice but to follow them down to the station for questioning. Without saying too much, Lawrence admitted to his lawyer that it couldn't have been him, because the truth is that he was seeing someone that night who he didn't want his wife finding out about. The lawyer suggested that he might as well have come clean, and after confirming his alibi, Lawrence was cleared of any suspicion for the time. But before he could leave, the detectives wanted him to listen to the story of a Jigsaw survivor who they'd just brought in, saying that it might help him remember any leads. In the next room over, they brought in a young woman named Amanda, the only person to have survived a Jigsaw trap so far. Nervous, she began to recall a story of how she was taken in by the maniac, and woke up restrained to a chair with a horrifying contraption already strapped to her face. After struggling for a moment without any luck, a television on the other side of the room suddenly turned on, showing a video of a sinister-looking puppet that Jigsaw used to explain the rules of her game. He called this one the reverse bear trap, and when the timer ran out, the device would split Amanda's head in half from her jaw up, killing her instantly. Her only hope of escape was to find the key hidden in the stomach of a dead body in the corner of the room. As soon as she stood up, the timer on Amanda's mask activated, leaving her with only 60 seconds to complete the challenge or die trying. Panicking, she grabbed a scalpel from the floor, only to realize that the dead man was very much still alive, just paralyzed with medication. But by then, it was already too late, and she had no choice but to cut the key out of his stomach, killing the man in the process. Luckily for her, at least, Amanda was able to unlock the device and save herself just in time, receiving a congratulations from the puppet, who rode in on a squeaky old tricycle, for having what it took to survive. The craziest part of all is that Amanda here was actually grateful to Jigsaw for what happened, saying that he helped her kick the addiction that would have eventually gotten her if she hadn't quit. Okay, this chick is seriously f***ed up, but I've got to give her some credit. She did the damn thing and made it out with her face still intact, which is more than any of Jigsaw's other victims can say so far. We're going to be seeing a lot more of Amanda here in later parts of the story, but for now, this gives us a great opportunity to point out something important. Thanks to Amanda, we've just had a first-hand demonstration on the #1 rule for surviving Jigsaw's death traps. The key here is to never under any circumstances start flailing around and freaking out before you've had a chance to carefully get a grasp of the entire situation. In this case, the timer on Amanda's trap wasn't activated until she stood up out of her chair and pulled the pin. Now, if she'd realized this before the timer was actually started, then it would have given her the option of examining the entire setup and trying to figure out a way to beat it without ever even activating the trap in the first place. After getting her hands free, she could have spent some time investigating the device itself and seeing if there was some way that she could damage, deactivate, or jam one of its crucial components, like the trigger pin, the timer, or the clasp holding it onto her head. Jigsaw is a pretty smart guy, so odds are good that there won't be any obvious weaknesses in the design for her to exploit. But giving yourself the time to at least try is much better than starting the timer and only having 60 seconds to figure it out before your head explodes. Plus, she could always just sit right there in that spot for the next 3 days or so before she eventually dies of dehydration, and just hope that some help happens to come her way before she has to handle the situation on her own. Once the timer started, she really didn't have any other options besides following through with the rules of the game the way that Jigsaw had set it up. That'd be easy enough if it really was just a dead body that you had to deal with, but realizing that the guy was alive completely changed everything. And it may have not been the most ethical decision, but you've got to at least respect the fact that Amanda did what she had to do. Now it's off to the needle pit with her. I'm looking at you, Saul Part 2. But as for Lawrence and Adam, they've still got a long way to go. Hearing all of this from Lawrence makes Adam kind of paranoid. But when he grabs a piece of broken glass to threaten him, he notices something strange. One side of the glass is see-through, meaning that it's actually a one-way mirror, and after smashing the rest of it with some junk that he finds on the floor, they realize that someone has been watching them on a camera all along. Taking everything in, the two of them finally begin to understand that every part of this nightmare was precisely calculated in advance by Jigsaw. Adam questions how the doctor here can stay so composed when his wife and daughter could be in danger, but he says that protecting them is exactly why he's so determined to escape. To prove that he's telling the truth, Lawrence throws him his wallet full of pictures of his family, but as he's looking through them, Adam here makes a disturbing discovery. Hidden inside is a photo of Allison and Diana all tied up, with regards from Jigsaw himself. On the reverse side is another message, reading, "Sometimes you see more with your eyes shut." Throwing the wallet back over to Lawrence, he decides to keep the picture a secret for now while he tries to figure out what the message could mean. On the night before, Lawrence left home for what he said was a late-night work call, but that was his biggest mistake. As soon as he was gone, someone kidnapped his wife and daughter, and now the man has them both tied up in their own apartment. But when he gets up to check outside the window, he has no idea that there's someone else watching them from across the street, who Jigsaw doesn't even know about. After finishing up with Lawrence, Detective Tapp spent the rest of the night watching Amanda's tape over and over again until he finally found what he was looking for. For one brief shot, he could make out a particular graffiti tag on the wall behind the puppet, as well as the faint sound of a fire alarm going off somewhere in the background. This allowed Tapp and his partner Singh to narrow the location down to an abandoned mannequin factory across town. So they set off to the location to see if they can find any leads, never suspecting that they were about to walk right into a death trap. With Tapp leading the way, the two detectives broke into the abandoned factory and were able to quickly find Jigsaw's makeshift workshop hidden up on the second floor of the building. Besides what they saw on the tape, the place was full of tiny models of Jigsaw's recent traps. But that's when they realized that they weren't alone. Pulling back one of the sheets, they were shocked to find this whole-ass guy hidden under there, strapped to some sort of contraption with two power drills pointed straight at his neck, when all of a sudden they heard the elevator coming up, and in walked Jigsaw himself just as the detectives took cover behind some nearby construction materials. From their hiding spot in the corner of the room, the detectives watched as Jigsaw approached the man in the trap, springing out to confront him when they thought that he'd let his guard down. But before they could even react, Jigsaw kicked a button on the floor and activated the device. throwing the whole situation into complete chaos. Forced to make a choice between going after him or saving the victim, Singh jumped into action trying to deactivate the trap, while Tap held Jigsaw at gunpoint. With only seconds left before the man would be killed, Singh quickly drew his weapon and shot out the drills, saving his life. But while Tap was distracted, Jigsaw busted out a full-blown Assassin's Creed blade and slit his throat with one swift move, disappearing deeper into the factory before Singh could catch him. Somehow, Tap here managed to survive the attack, and handed Singh the shoddy, telling him to go after Jigsaw instead. The chase leading him down into the tunnels below the building where death could be waiting for him around any corner. In one of the hallways, Singh drew down on Jigsaw and fired a blast straight into his back, dropping him to the floor. But as he moved in to investigate, he accidentally activated a tripwire that automatically fired several shotguns down at him from above. By the time that Tap could get to him, Jigsaw had already escaped, his body armor having saved him from the fatal shot, leaving Tap here completely obsessed with finding the madman and stopping him once and for all. Okay, well fellas, I gotta say that I don't think that could have gone any worse if you tried. It's almost like that you forgot that you were going after the most deranged, calculating criminal genius that you've ever encountered in your entire careers, and you just decided to treat it like your first day on the job instead. Knowing his MO, you would have thought that they would have been just a little bit more careful about their approach, but now we've got one detective down, Jigsaw still on the loose, and there's really only one person to blame for this entire debacle. Detective Tap, you, sir, have majorly f***ed up. Alright, bud, since you're clearly struggling here, let me sit you down for a little Jigsaw one-on-one. This guy loves his traps, clearly. So if you're going after him in his own workshop, it might be a good idea to expect the unexpected. Just a suggestion. Honestly, you two are even lucky enough that you made it through the front door without being killed, considering you just kicked it in without even checking. But I guess that luck doesn't hold up forever now, huh? As a matter of fact, let's talk about my boy Singh for a minute, because what just happened to him was wrong. So wrong, on so many levels. Tap here may have f***ed up, but poor Singh was the one who really got done dirty. You want to know what this guy's plans for the night were? He was heading down to the bar with his buddies from work to get a beer and a burger and then going home to be with his wife and kids. But instead, he got roped into an illegal search by this Jigsaw-obsessed maniac and ended up paying the ultimate price. At least he was being more careful, but even that still wasn't enough. And I guess that's just the risk you take when you're dealing with a guy who isn't a killer, but set up a vertical shotgun booby trap for anyone who tries to trespass in his workshop. Seriously, 4 shotguns on a tripwire, but he's not a killer? Yeah, okay. Here I was thinking that Jigsaw's victims were only supposed to be bad people. Singh here did absolutely nothing to deserve this besides just doing his job. And he didn't even get any warning or anything. Just straight up taken out in the most horrific way imaginable so that his family can't even give him a nice funeral. That's just diabolical, Jigsaw, even for you. And as for Tap, don't think I forgot about you. What? Did you forget your handcuffs at home or something? First of all, you jumped out at the worst possible time. And by waiting until he was right next to the hostage,
Kapag ginawa ko to, every time na mamatay ako, tatlo mamamatay ako in real life.
Jigsaw tricks. Your partner Singh did his part and saved a man's life.
Gains.
You were the one who dragged him into this death trap in the first place. But even then, you still couldn't keep up your own end of the deal. All that you had to do was cuff him, and it would have been case closed. But you literally just sat there dumbfounded until you got straight up Ezio'd with the hidden blade. Assassin's Creed reference. And all I can say to that is, damn. I guess Jigsaw had that throat slash precisely lined up to leave Tap over there looking like he's clinging to dear life, but not actually in danger of dying, you know, since he's definitely not a killer and all that. The worst part about this whole disgrace was that they could have ended Jigsaw's entire career right here and now if they just made better decisions. With some backup, proper gear, and a solid plan, this could have gone in a completely different direction. But Tap, being in such a rush, led them to blowing it when they had their best chance of stopping him yet. And his partner was the one who ended up having to suffer the consequences. You're a bad detective, Tap. Go home. But you're an even worse friend. And that is why you f***ed up. Tensions continue to escalate back in the bathroom, where Lawrence is getting more and more frustrated with Adam's cagey behavior. But something that the doctor says suddenly gives him an idea. Adam here tells his roommate to try turning off the lights, and that's when they realize that X has been right behind him the whole time, marked marked on the wall with glow-in-the-dark paint. Using the handle of his saw, Lawrence busts out the section of the wall and finds a small metal box hidden inside. It's locked, of course, but they're able to open it using the key that came with his envelope way back in the beginning, and inside they find several interesting items. There's a cell phone, a lighter, 2 cigarettes, and a note addressed to Lawrence, reminding him that there's more than one way to kill his opponent. Lawrence's first instinct is to try to call the cops, but he quickly realizes that the phone is only set up for receiving calls, not placing them. The sound of the busy signal suddenly triggers a memory of how he had been trying to leave a shady-looking parking garage the night before, only to be violently attacked and kidnapped by a figure wearing a red cloak and a pig's head mask, which finally explains how he ended up here. Getting suspicious, Lawrence demands to know how Adam here came up with the idea to turn off the lights, and after arguing about it for a minute, he finally decides to show him the picture that he found in his wallet. The doctor is completely heartbroken by what he sees, but this doesn't change the fact that his only way to save them is to finish the game. Now that he has proof that they're really in danger, he's starting to consider all of his options, including taking Adam out. Thinking it over, he remembers that the dead man in the room with them supposedly had poison in his blood and secretly dips one of the cigarettes into it while Adam here is distracted. For a moment, it seems like he's planning on killing the man to win his own freedom, but he's not actually ready to turn on him just yet. Instead, he shuts off the lights so that Jigsaw can't see them and quietly fills Adam in on the plan, telling him to play along. Turning the lights back on, he tosses Adam the safe cigarette, and he immediately starts pretending to choke on the poison in hopes of tricking Jigsaw. It's an Oscar-worthy performance, but the kidnapper calls their bluff by shocking Adam with a jolt of electricity through the shackle around his ankle, proving that he's actually still alive. Desperate to escape, Lawrence goes back to madly sawing at the chain, but it's no use, and he tosses the saw away out of frustration. At the same time, the jolt of electricity must have jogged Adam's memory, because now he says that he can remember how he ended up there. On the same night that Lawrence was taken, Adam here was back at his rundown apartment developing secret photos of the doctor himself, and fell asleep at his desk only to wake up in pitch darkness with the power seeming like it'd been cut. Just then, he heard what sounded like someone else in the apartment with him and started using the flash from his camera to look for the source of the noise. As he made his way into the kitchen, he was jump-scared by Jigsaw's puppet sitting in one of the chairs and gave the little creep a much-needed beatdown with a baseball bat. But he wasn't safe yet. Hearing a noise from the closet, he slowly pulled open the door using a camera flash to light up the inside, and that's when the same pig-masked attacker jumped out of the shadows, knocking him out and dragging him off to the game. Okay, I swear, the more that I find out about these people, the dumber that I realize that they are. This could be up there in the out-of-the Hall of Shame for one of the most easily avoidable abductions that I've ever witnessed. And when you look at how bad the consequences were for this screw-up, it only makes it so much worse. Adam, my boy, old buddy, old pal, I'm just gonna say something here that might sound crazy to you, but I really want you to listen up and hear me out. If you think that there's an intruder hiding in your closet when you have a clear shot to the fucking front door, just leave. It's not like you had a wife and kids in the next room that you had to protect. The door was right there. So what the hell are we even doing still standing around in your kitchen in the dark? The instant that I saw that Jigsaw puppet sitting on my couch, I would have been halfway around the planet like Barry Allen so fast that the kidnapper would not have even been sure if anyone ever lived there to begin with. There's this little thing called fight or flight response that's been keeping us alive for millions of years, but it doesn't seem like you got either one. And maybe you just weren't meant to survive in the same universe as a guy like Jigsaw after all. At the very least, he could have bunkered up somewhere in a defensible position and used some furniture to block himself in. Then all he would have had to do is yell for help and start swinging that bat around if they tried to get him. But even with a baseball bat and the home field advantage, he still somehow managed to lose the fight. That's just embarrassing. Adam here just provided a great example of exactly what not to do if you ever find yourself in a similar situation. And his survival instincts clearly haven't gotten any better since then. But maybe if he gets lucky, there's still a chance of him making it out of this bathroom alive. With only about 25 minutes left on the clock, the phone starts to ring as Lawrence receives a call from his wife and daughter. He hears Diana on the other end when he answers, who tells him that the man from her room has them, before handing the phone over to her mother. When it's Allison's turn, she tells him not to trust Adam in a way that sounds suspiciously like she's reading it from a script. The kidnapper abruptly hangs up before he can ask any more questions. At this point, Lawrence here is officially ready to crash out and starts demanding that Adam tells him who he really is. Finally, Adam agrees to come clean, but he's not the only one with something to hide. While his family thought that he was at work, Lawrence here was secretly at a motel having a sneaky link with his secretary. Although he and the woman didn't actually do anything, they received a mysterious phone call as he was about to leave, threatening to expose him. And Lawrence left the place in such a hurry that he didn't even notice Adam taking pictures of him as he walked back to his car. It turns out that Adam here had been hired by a man named Bob to get the photos, but he swears that he doesn't know anything else about the doctor's personal life. It isn't until he starts to describe the man that Jigsaw realizes Bob is actually Detective Tapp, still hell-bent on solving the Jigsaw case as a way to avenge his fallen partner, and convinced that the doctor here had something to do with it. He's absolutely furious with Adam for essentially stalking him, but what Adam points out is that he was just capturing the truth, saying that Lawrence has no one to blame for what happened other than himself. The bag containing the hacksaws was also full of pictures that Adam had been keeping a secret until now, but as they're looking them over, they realize that there are a couple of photos in there of Lawrence's apartment that were definitely taken by somebody else. And in one of them, they can clearly make out a man named Zep, who works as an orderly at the hospital, standing in his bedroom window, proving that he's the one who kidnapped Allison and Diana. It's a little too late though, because that's when the clock reaches 6, and now it's time for the final part of Jigsaw's game to begin. Back at their apartment, Allison manages to get her gag loose while the kidnapper is distracted. Speaking to her daughter, she reassures the girl that everything is going to be alright, and starts working at her hand restraints in an attempt to get herself free. Just as she finally does it, Zephyr comes back into the room and forces her to call her husband one last time, never realizing that she's no longer tied up. She plays along for a moment, but the second that she sees an opportunity, Allison leaps into action and tackles Zep to the floor, wrestling his weapon away as she orders him not to move. Grabbing the phone, she tries to explain the situation to her husband, but as soon as she lets her guard down, Zep jumps back up and starts trying to subdue her once again, with the two of them firing several shots into the walls of the apartment as they battle it out. Okay, you have got to be kidding me. I seriously just can't deal with these people anymore. Let me take a deep breath before I say something that I might regret. Alright, now that I'm cooled off, let's just take a second to talk about the absolute show that we just witnessed here. I think Allison might be giving Adam a run for his money when it comes to some of the worst survival skills that I've ever seen. Here's an idea. If the guy who you just escaped from is inching closer and closer to you, even though you're pointing the blicky straight at his face, just take the damn shot. Please! Blast this creep back to Timbuktu and do the whole world a favor before exactly what just happened ends up happening. The only thing worse than getting kidnapped once is getting kidnapped twice by the same guy who didn't even have a weapon the second time. No weapon the second time. Like that. She even had a phone in her hand that she could have used to, I don't know, maybe call 12. It's not like Lawrence was in any position to help her, so it doesn't make any sense to waste time telling him to hold on when you should be calling for help. She had the whole situation under control, but somehow, she still managed to blow. We need to move on before I genuinely lose it, but at this point, whatever happens. Good luck, idiots. You're clearly gonna need it. The commotion across the street attracts the attention of Detective Tapp, who goes charging over there with his own weapon to join the shootout. Just as Allison manages to stab Zep in the leg with a pair of scissors, Tapp over here knocks on the door, waving the door 4, and just starts blasting with absolutely no regard for the innocent woman and child who are caught in the crossfire. All that Lawrence can do is listen as his apartment pops off like the 4th of July, but thankfully, Allison and Diana are able to make a quick escape as Tapp runs out of ammo and charges across the room, spear tackling Zep to the floor. After a brief scuffle, Zep manages to stun Tapp with a glass vase to the back of the head, and quickly takes off out of there to go kill Lawrence, leaving the others safe for now. Just then, Lawrence is struck by what seems like a lethal jolt of electricity, but it's only enough to temporarily knock him out. Meanwhile, Zep speeds over to the building with Tapp in close pursuit, and the two of them start popping off shots at each other in the tunnels as he scrambles to get to the bathroom and finish the job. The phone starts to ring again as Allison tries to call to tell him that they're alright, but it's sitting just out of Lawrence's reach. And he gets so frustrated with the whole situation that he decides that it's time to do something drastic. In a frenzy, Lawrence tears off his shirt and wraps it around his leg like a tourniquet before laying into his own leg with the hacksaw in a desperate play to set himself was finally about to crack the case. In the bathroom, Lawrence finally manages to saw through his entire leg before dragging himself over to the revolver on the floor and loading in his single cartridge. Even though he begs him not to do it, Lawrence raises the weapon and reluctantly fires a shot into Adam's chest, killing him in the hopes that Jigsaw will set his family free.
Okay, and this right here officially confirms that Lawrence is an absolute moron, the likes of which the world has never seen. He could have easily used the same saw that he just cut his own foot off with to reach the damn phone if he would have just tried even 1% harder. Then he would have known that his family was safe and all of this bloodshed could have been avoided. Instead, he just maimed himself forever, killed a guy, and still doesn't even know if his family is okay. He did have some nice form when it came to the amputation though, and you could really see those surgeon skills coming through, so I'll give him credit for that at least. But brother, that was easily one of the most brain-dead decisions that I've ever seen. And you're about to find out that you did it all for nothing.
What Lawrence here fails to realize is that his family is already safe and sound, but as for him, he's slowly bleeding out on the floor of this disgusting bathroom. And that's when Zep comes crashing in to finish him off. Even though he technically killed Adam like he was told, he did it a few minutes too late, which means that according to the rules of the game, he still has to die. All of a sudden, Adam here proves that he's not dead by sweeping Zep's leg and brutally beating him to death with the lid of the toilet tank, saving both of their lives just in time. The shot only hits his shoulder, leaving him injured but still alive, and Lawrence crawls out of the room promising to bring back help. But if they think that their game is over, then they're in for a terrifying surprise. Digging through the man's pockets, Adam finds another cassette player next to Zep, proving that he was only another pawn in Jigsaw's game. Remember that dead body that's been in there the whole time? It's at this moment that he suddenly gets up from the ground, peeling off the fake wound that he's been wearing and revealing his true identity. John Kramer, the cancer patient in Lawrence's hospital, or as he's known in the streets, the real Jigsaw. As Adam realizes that he's just been played like a fiddle, Jigsaw tells him that the key to his chain went down the drain of the bathtub when he first woke up in it 8 hours ago. After stunning Adam with another jolt of electricity, Jigsaw turns out the lights and closes the door, leaving him to die alone in the darkness. The game might be over for Adam, but as for John, his games are just getting started. If you were trapped in a run-down house with no way to escape and only 2 hours to live, what would you do? These unsuspecting criminals are about to end up the next victims in a madman's death game, and they're going to have to do whatever it takes if they want to make it out alive. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the return of Jigsaw in Saw 2. This detective is going to learn the hard way what happens when you try to hide from the mistakes of your past, suddenly waking up after being knocked unconscious. This guy, Michael, finds himself locked in a dingy room with nothing but some bright lights, a TV, and a mirror around him. Looking at his reflection, he realizes that his left eye seems badly damaged. But what's even more horrifying is that his head is trapped inside of a steel, mask-like contraption filled with giant metal spikes. Just then, the TV turns on, and Billy the Jigsaw puppet appears on the screen, telling Michael that he wants to play a game. Because the man makes his living spying on others, Jigsaw tells him that he'll have to sacrifice the part of his body that he relies on the most if he wants to survive. The death mask is on a timer, and if he doesn't find the key in time, then it will snap shut, brutally killing him. After showing Michael footage of him on an operating table to prove that the key is really hidden inside of his body, he gives him one final hint, flashing x-rays of the key behind his eyeball and telling him that it's right before his eyes. Terrified, Michael lunges for a toolbox across the room, accidentally pulling a pin out of the trap and activating the timer. Inside, he finds a surgeon's scalpel and starts psyching himself up to perform the operation. Although he comes close to doing it, in the end, he's too afraid, tossing the blade across the room and falling to his knees as he screams out for help. That's when the timer runs out and the trap snaps shut, killing him. That makes one victim down, with 9 more to go.
Okay, talk about a splitting headache. This is an absolute nightmare scenario, but what could Michael here have done differently if he wanted to survive? The first step with any jigsaw trap is to carefully observe your surroundings. Looking around the room, we can see that the wire to activate the trap is attached to a small pulley on the wall nearby. Although he was definitely in a bad position, the danger didn't become immediate until he went for the toolbox, pulling on the wire and causing the timer to start counting down. This means that technically, as long as he avoided pulling out the pin, he'd have about 3 days.
Not too long ago, I made a video covering secrets and...
But with that being said, we have some more drama going on. Now, this is a bit of a shorter segment here. We've got a few shorter segments. First of all, Keemstar beefing with Dogpack 404 from this drama alert tweet. Here it says, Mr. Beast's exposer, former employee Dogpack 404, requested an Apple Vision Pro for productivity for Mr. Beast Company. Now, this was initially revealed in the cease and desist that was sent to him that was later leaked by the Daily Mail, and Dawson admitted to this, but here we have this video of him requesting this apparently.
No, I need an Apple Vision Pro for productivity. Okay, keep in mind, I drove here twice on my own dime, didn't take any money for relocation, no rental car, okay, 90 days, no rental car, that's worth an Apple Vision Pro. Okay, this is not a negotiation. If I do not get my Apple Vision Pro, I will cry.
Now, I don't know if the music is added from him or from Drama Alert, I'm not really sure. We got a little more context, apparently, from this former Mr. Beast employee who decided to discuss it a little bit. Talks about how Dogpack got fired.
Although this was a very
need to
cute
learn a
way
new
back to
timing?
something so expensive.
Unacceptable.
It was pretty typical behavior in Mr. Beast land. Alright, so I know
Mother.
Sean and Apple Vision Pros have to do anything. So I guess when Dawson asked me, he had already asked a couple people around the same time. This became an issue because a couple people said no at the same time that Sean said yes, and this meant that Dawson got his Apple Vision Pros. Now usually when mommy and daddy are arguing whether you get to have the new Apple Vision Pros or not, parents tend to get mad at each other, the kid gets in trouble maybe, but nobody loses their job. Hopefully mommy and daddy still keep their jobs after this argument. But in Mr. Beast land, it doesn't work this way. So after a couple weeks of me trying to get Dawson's Apple Vision Pros with no update on the situation and a huge lack of communication between the different team leads and managers at the company, I ordered the Apple Vision Pros in Dawson's side because if you don't know, you have to face scan your face to make them fit your face right. So I got Dawson's Apple Vision Pros approved through Sean and ordered them. Now when they finally got here a couple weeks later, I was walking through the hallways with the Apple Vision Pros in my hand, and one of the employees that's pretty important at the company saw me walking around with them, and I said, "Please tell me those aren't for Dawson." And I said, "They are." And this employee told me he's already been told no like 3 times, and mumbled something along the lines of, "Someone's gonna get fired for this," which is a pretty typical response at the company when people make mistakes that big. Now, if you saw my previous video, you know I wasn't fired for this.
Fuck you, man.
So apparently there was some miscommunication here.
Although this was
Mr. Beast brand around whether or not Dawson deserved or needed an Apple Vision Pro, and obviously we know this contributed partially to his firing from the Mr. Beast company. Well, Dogpack ended up firing back. He didn't like this too much. He said, "They promised to reimburse my travel expenses and then refused. Is that professional? They used CGI to fake their philanthropy. Is that professional? They kept multiple known payroll. Is that professional?" Also, you said Mr. Beast was going to respond. What happened to that? And it kind of does beg the question, is Mr. Beast going to respond at all? Because he hasn't. But Nick Diorio speculated on this a little bit here. He said, for people who still care, this is likely what's happening with Jimmy's response. So he's got some kind of explanation we're going to get to glean a little bit for anybody who's wondering, why hasn't Mr. Beast responded? Dogpack insinuated there would be 3 videos, and Mr. Beast's initial statement was that he was waiting for all these allegations to be made before making his response video. This likely went off the rails as Dogpack's 3rd video turned out to be really bad. He announced a real 3rd video during Hooperville's interview. Dogpack was flaunting how he was saving things and implied that the real 3rd video will be significant as it contains all the cuss he's been teasing. Now that a 4th Dogpack video is being teased, both sides are completely stunlocked and the story is dying. At least that's my guess. So it seems like he's just kind of decided not to respond at this point because the 3rd video didn't go that well. The controversy's dying. So he might just not respond unless Dogpack posts another video, which it doesn't seem like he's going to anytime soon at least. Mr. Beast has lemon eyes. That's how you know he's evil. Thank you very much, Vegan Beans. But, once again, Mr. Beast has got bigger things to worry about. He's renting out a theater to watch Dog 2, listen to The Thick of It by KSI, and that's what he's up to right now. He's got bigger priorities. Now, regarding Mr. Beast, we've looked at a few interesting articles from a few different sources. First of all, Business Insider published an article saying Mr. Beast's $100 million Amazon reality show may succeed despite controversy, but it could come back to haunt him. Mr. Beast revealed he spent more than $100 million on his game show Beast Games. The production isn't going anywhere despite the controversy surrounding it, experts said.
Try again.
However, the star YouTuber may find it harder to find fund his big projects in the future. Now, he did talk about this a little bit more on the Impulsive podcast with Logan Paul and KSI, where he said he had spent more than $100 million in the show in total. I think he said he had spent $20 million just building like a little city for people in the show to like live in, so it must be a pretty impressive set. The cost of the show isn't the only thing you have made headlines. It's already been controversial, with some contestants telling Rolling Stone and the New York Times they were not provided with sufficient food or medical care during the first round in Las Vegas, where they lived in a stadium. Some said they suffered injuries. And as I get into an article here, 5 unnamed contestants did file a lawsuit against Donaldson and Amazon to a Los Angeles court in September. The lawsuit alleges sexual harassment and toxic and hostile workplace. Now, I did already make a video reading the entire lawsuit, but the gist of it is that the people who are a part of this are trying to make the case that they should qualify as employees and therefore receive the same kind of benefits and protections that employees would receive. They argue that Mr. Beast and Amazon Studios didn't want to classify the people involved, the contestants, as employees because they wanted to get a $2 million tax credit. Now, whether or not that's true remains to be seen. I don't know how this lawsuit is going to go, and I think a lot of it's going to hinge on whether or not they're able to prove that they should have been treated as employees. And if not, I think they're going to have a hard time getting the rest of the lawsuit through. But here we have some more info from Business Insider in this section titled Dodging the Negativity. Robin Abu Chadid, an influencer, global brand identity strategist, and personal branding specialist who founded the creative marketing company Guide to Agency, told Business Insider that certain celebrity personas tend to transcend controversy. Donaldson has largely dodged criticism in the past. His exponential growth so far hasn't been tempered by anything that comes his way. Allegations or even legal proof can stay entirely separate from public or consumer appetite for the personal brand, Chadid said, adding that many of Donaldson's core audience, which makes up more than 300 million YouTube subscribers, may not even be reading these articles, which is true. They're definitely not. Now, this article, even if it got 1 million people reading it, is still 1/300th of the people who watch Mr. Beast. And I'm going to make kind of a controversial statement here. I would guess the kind of people who are watching commentary videos and reading Business Insider are probably not the same kind of people. First of all, those are two different audiences in and of themselves. But I would guess there's very little overlap between those people who watch Mr. Beast videos, you know? I doubt a lot of people in my chat were watching a lot of Mr. Beast. His audience is comprised primarily of children and normies who aren't watching a lot of YouTube content. They're probably watching the most mainstream stuff, Vivo channels, maybe Philip DeFranco, and maybe some Mr. Beast. Does Mr. Beast do the Charleston? I think if he did, it would end this whole drama. That's what I would say about that. Now, they point out that Mr. Beast has been very tight-lipped about this, saying, Donaldson has been quieter than usual in the last few weeks. His reputation took a hit in July when his long-term friend and colleague Ava Tyson was accused of messaging a child fan inappropriately. Donaldson cut ties with Tyson. Since then, he's hired a top law firm to investigate his workplace, but has been selective about what he said publicly. Donaldson has, however, launched a new product with KSI called Lunchly, which is a competitor to Kraft Heinz's Lunchables, which we saw, the way that launch went. Ultimately, I think a lot of the Twitter and kind of Reddit backlash towards this is not going to have a big effect on the business. I would guess that it will be successful or not successful, relatively independent of how people feel about it on Twitter and Reddit. However, Chadid told BI these stonewall tactics may come back to bite him, affecting his reputation in future partnerships, so they think that this could have a negative effect down the line. He's simply hiding behind his product, Chadid said, adding that there is only so long Donaldson can count on being bankable if he's seen as a risky investment. D'Angelo told B.I. Donaldson might speak up if the controversy starts to affect his bread and butter, his YouTube channel. I'm certain that's something that's on Mr. Beast's mind all the time, she said. Donaldson's channel is still growing, and there's no sign that anyone is likely to overtake him as the biggest YouTuber in the world anytime soon. But he may find his fans eventually wanting to be honest with him. I kind of doubt that, honestly. I don't think the majority of people watching Mr. Beast give a shit. The budget for Beast games may be huge, and audience appetite stronger than ever, Chadid said, but those same fans will soon grow too, and with them, their appetite for transparency and ethics. So as Mr. Beast's audience gets a little older, they may start to have issues with these controversies. They start to develop more media literacy and question what's going on with the business and the ethics of Mr. Beast as a brand. But ultimately, if he just gets new children in, it's not really going to matter. Season 6 of Game of Thrones cost $100 million. No shot the Beast show compares. Well, it's a game show, though, right? Game shows are typically not this expensive. Are you saying that he's competing with narrative-based HBO shows? I would say he's not. He's competing with, like, Survivor. And apparently this is the most expensive challenge game show type thing that's ever been done. I don't think that would be a lie. I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination. Now, Mr. Beast has also, in the meantime, launched another sort of business, or rather he's acquired a startup that may make some waves in the creator economy. I'm curious how creators are going to feel about using it, given the kind of reputation of Mr. Beast. I think audiences, depending on the kind of audience you have, might be mad about the fact people are using this, but I might use it anyway, to be honest. I might use it because it could be a useful tool for me for finding contractors. Because in the past, there's only been like Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, I guess a few other social media sites to try and field the talent for your YouTube channel. And then there's YT Jobs, which is not a great site. But Mr. Beast has apparently acquired a business for the creator economy called Vouch. YouTube's top creators expanded its estimated $700 million a year business empire by acquiring the startup Couch. Founded by the former Cameo employee Marty Pessis, is a platform that allows creators to build their own hiring sites and post job openings. Similar to LinkedIn, the platform lets candidates create profiles to showcase their skills and lists creators they've worked with in the past. A creator can view the applicant's profile page and application and direct message them with the app. Creators really are much more like traditional businesses these days. We found that creators that had ops people in seat were able to move a lot quicker and have a lot more effective hiring initiatives. So we often push our partners to start with that role if they haven't. So he acquired this business, which is apparently built to help scale YouTubers. And I'll be honest, I'll probably use this. I will.
What the fuck was it?
True. I'll probably use this business, this app for hiring stuff in the future if it goes well. And I have no shame about that, frankly. Need new hires.
Oh shit!
Apply for jobs with me. Fucking suck. So hopefully this will be able to kind of call out people who are bad at it or people other skills. I don't think YouTubers care about the beast trauma in his videos. Kaizen has to be on any feedback for Simon. Did he post a new video again? I thought that was the old video. This video?
We are spending the next 7 days in this massive underground city.
1 hour ago. Oh, that's not
Underground city!
It's kind of surprising. If that is the case, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know when this was filmed. It could have been 4 months ago. There is I'm curious if these creators.
Hey! Not nice.
Everything you're going to witness from here on out is just pure chaos. You'll see me in an elevator.
Logan Paul's in it.
Elevator? If they're in the elevator, how do we get up? We gotta take 15 flights of stairs, Kai? You're not thinking. Bro, you just got here, bro. You just got here last night. Bro, why is he in the mirror?
I like how Tyson had to stand on the bench to be taller than Logan. He's like 5'6".
I'm just gonna say it. Alright, we need to start acting on these orders, you guys. Let's carry your stuff to the elevator. Enjoy your dictatorship. Hey, enjoy your elevator. Yeah, enjoy the elevator, buddy. Bro, me.
Very interesting. So yeah, so,
Where's
I mean,
Miriam?
the thing is, this is probably filmed months ago, if I had to guess, because Mr. Beast videos come out a long time after the production starts. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the comments, Chandler is back apparently. He had previously left the entire Mr. Beast channel. I was the first on TikTok. He's back in the videos, which is very interesting. Kind of surprising, actually. But it remains to be seen what the reception will be on this video. Now we do have one more article here from Dexerto with a Mr. Beast employee apparently interviewed. Former Mr. Beast employee explains why YouTubers' invincible attitude is costing. Okay, he's suffering from some negative press apparently because of this. And it seems like from the inside some leaks are forming. The former Mr. Beast employee opened up about his experience working with YouTube star and saying the creator's invincible mindset is causing him big problems. This is an interview with Trey Yates. You guys may remember we watched an interview with him where he talked about Mr. Beast apparently handing out Adderall. Based probably.
Jihad?
Give me some of that. Give me some of those snippets.
No
Dude, I'll be
shit,
cracked.
Sherlock.
He said that Donaldson's unstoppable attitude toward doing the impossible with every video is partly to blame for the recent backlash. As told in an October 9th interview with Polygon. For years, Jimmy felt like he was invincible, Beast told the outlet. What we're seeing now is the repercussions of him thinking that way. And as a YouTube bubble, he can get away with that as his target audience is children. If he wants to continue to scale up, he can't just say and do whatever the fuck we want anymore. It's worth noting that this mindset is part of Mr. Beast's business model, as told in the leaked PDF document that acted as a brain dump for his ideas. Mr. Beast arrestables when? That's a great question. I think that would save the brand for sure. That would save the brand. Notably, Mr. Beast created a section called No Does Not Mean No, where he outlined expectations for dealing with clients' responses to all orders. When dealing with people outside Mr. Beast Productions, never take a no at face value. He wrote, if we need to sort of buy everything inside of, you call the local Dollar Tree and that person answers no, then you can't film there. That literally doesn't mean shit. Yates said he was fired from Mr. Beast's company after arguing against requests to work longer hours, something he decided to do after missing the birth of a relative. Now, he and other former employees are speaking out against the YouTuber, such as fellow creator Dogpack, who went viral for his multiple video exposés about the influencer. Thus, Donaldson has yet to officially address the ongoing backlash against himself and the brand, outside of defending his latest product, Lunchly, which he did do on Twitter here, as well as publicly distancing himself from Chris Tyson earlier this year. So that's really the situation that we're in now. Here, he did defend Lunchly, saying, Lunchable sells hundreds of know it's cheap, it's gonna be slop, I know it's gonna be slop. Just, give me the cheap slop that tastes good rather than trying to make it healthy. It's bad. So that's kind of the update on this particular
Not too long ago, I made a video covering secrets and Easter eggs I discovered in Silent Hill 2 Remake.
Fuck you.
Since then, I've taken much more time to replay the game to find more hidden
That's it?
details and references to not just
That's
Silent
the
Hill 2
fucking
Remake,
it?
but to the Silent Hill series as a whole. Today, I want to discuss more secrets and Easter eggs. As always, spoilers for Silent Hill 2 Remake. After the opening cinematic cutscene, if you were to walk down the road of the observation deck, you can find a white van parked by the entrance of the forest trail. This white van is speculated to be owned by Eddie Dombrowski, one of the main characters in Silent Hill 2 Remake. While not confirmed by word of mouth from Eddie himself, it's heavily implied that it is related to him, given the messy interior of the car itself, such as the large soda cup discarded on the dashboard. Eddie is known to be messy when it comes to him and food. Another indicator of this van belonging to Eddie is in the original FMV intro of the original Silent Hill 2. In the intro cinematic, we get a brief cutscene of Eddie and Laura conversating by a white van, with Eddie sitting by it. Further down the road, past Eddie's white van, is a large metal fence that blocks the player from entering through the tunnel, with a message that reads, "Welcome." However, the sign is notably missing a couple of words, which are the letters L and E. There is interestingly quite a bit of history regarding this certain welcome message, prior to Silent Hill 2 Remake. In the original Silent Hill 2, there was a beta version titled Silent Hill 2 version 0.10. In the beta version, the welcome message contained two letter L's, with a missing E at the end of welcome. In the final version of Silent Hill 2, it was fixed. In the observation deck, if you return to the restroom, you can find a certain graffiti at the end of the restroom stall. This graffiti is a crude depiction of the demon Lilith, containing Hebrew writing. Above the graffiti are a depiction of Senoi, Samzenoi, and Samnagloth. Interestingly, this depiction of the demon Lilith is found in the Kabbalah by Gershom Scholem. This graffiti was originally seen in the original Silent Hill 2 as well. Before the first encounter of the lying figure, you can find a monument that is on Lindsay Street. This monument is known as Remains of Blood Swamp. Upon reading, the following text is redacted and hard to detail the full transcript of the full message. However, when uncovering the files from the original Silent Hill 2, it contains a fully legible script. Essentially, it details the story of a swamp called Blood Swamp, due to the town's executioners using the swamp as a means to wash their execution tools after an execution. Hence, the blood from the tools pollutes the swamp with blood, earning the nickname. Throughout Silent Hill 2 Remake, you'll find dead bodies littered in areas they explore across the town of Southvale. If you take a closer look, you can see that many of the corpses have details that match James's appearance. This is an intentional detail that is supposed to be a reflection of James's suppressed thoughts, feelings, and emotions when it comes to himself. This conveys the idea of James subconsciously desiring punishment for his misdeed of killing his wife, Mary. The town's spiritual power manifests as James' fears that are brought to life by tormenting him with these mangled, deceased, and mutilated corpses. These dead bodies are also originally seen in the original Silent Hill 2 that serves the same purpose. In the town of Southvale, you'll come to find a restaurant called Happy Burger. This is an in-universe fast food restaurant in the Silent Hill franchise that is a parody of the fast food chain Burger King. Happy Burger has made a previous appearance in Silent Hill 3, where Heather wakes up in the fast food restaurant after a nightmare she has of the overlord
looks nice.
upon dying in her dream. It also has other fast food parodies seen in the franchise, such as Konami Burger or Queen Burger in Silent Hill 1. While looking for parts for the jukebox puzzle to collect the Woodside Apartments key, you'll eventually stumble across an apartment building called Saul Street Apartments. Here, you'll find an apartment with a noticeable hole in the bathroom. Players have suspected that this hole is a reference to Silent Hill 4, as Henry Townsend also discovers he has a hole in his bathroom wall. The reason why this is seemingly a reference to Silent Hill 4 is not only the hole itself, but also the interior of the bathroom looking fairly similar to that of Henry's bathroom in room 302. Throughout Silent Hill 2 Remake, you'll find monsters called creepers. These small insect-like cockroaches that deal small damage to James. The creepers originally manifest from Alessa Gillespie, an important character from Silent Hill 1. She has a disgust and dislike of these insects, to the extent to where the town itself manifests these creatures to life. According to Masahiro Ito, he would address this inclusion of the creepers with a comment on Twitter, stating that it's merely a homage to Silent Hill 1. While in Woodside Apartments, James encounters Pyramid Head behind a barred fence in the hallway. If you were to have your chainsaw equipped in New Game Plus and walk up to Pyramid Head, he does an animation where he lifts the chainsaw above his head and makes a battle cry. It's also important to note that James does this with usually every enemy, and sometimes even in interactable objects. After the cutscene of being introduced to Eddie, you can explore a room close by. Here, you'll find a bedroom with football posters and a football helmet. This is a reference to the victim that Eddie shot in the kneecap that was his bully. The revolver Eddie is seen using before his boss fight is the same revolver he uses to shoot the football player in the kneecap, as well as the dog he killed. In the freezer room with the deceased corpses, these aren't actually real people killed, merely delusions. Masahiro Ito confirms this, stating that Eddie only killed the dog. Upon completing the coin cabinet puzzle, you receive the key to room 201. In this room, you'll find a bedroom with a bed to the side, a nightstand with a lamp, and a chair next to it. In the ending, you'll find this same bedroom, now accompanied by a bedridden Mary and James sitting next to her. This room is most likely the room Mary lived in during her final days before her death. Interestingly, in the labyrinth, specifically the written area, you can find the same bedroom becoming more in ruin during the 3 trials. After completing the final trial, a wall will become rubble and debris, landing specifically on Mary's bed, symbolic of Mary's illness going through stages before succumbing to her death, as well as Mary and James's lives becoming ruined and falling apart. As you explore Blue Creek Apartments, you can find a haunting black silhouette in a lit-up window. It's speculated to be either one of the spirits of the people who used to occupy the apartment complex, or a spirit of Mary watching over James. However, there is no substance to these claims, mostly speculation. Much like the original Silent Hill 2, James also sticks his hand into a toilet to retrieve an item. The difference here is that in the original, James finds a note for the locker puzzle in the next room over to get handgun ammo. In the remake, he retrieves the minute hand for the grandfather clock puzzle. After the cutscene with Angela in the mirror room of Blue Creek Apartments, you can find a photo that shows a family together. However, if you look closely, you can see that it is conveniently ripped up in 2, separating the father and brother from the mother and daughter. This gives subtle imagery of Angela's relationship with her father and brother, as they abused her extensively since she was a young girl. In room 202 of Blue Creek Apartments, you can find a massive swarm of moths. Later, in the final boss fight with Mary, one of Mary's primary attacks is using a swarm of moths to attack James. Moths are seen as a symbol of death in most cultures. Black moths, in particular, can represent morality, divinity, new beginnings, and resurrection, a motif that is seen in the death of Mary that proceeds to coexist with the birth of Maria. In Jack's Inn, if you were to save at the car with the red square, Maria makes a comment to James asking him if he is alright as he is frozen, while the player is saving their progress, a joke that breaks the 4th wall.
James? Is everything alright? Hey, are you okay? It's like you froze for a second.
Yeah, it's fine.
At the front entrance of Baldwin Mansion, you can find a white chrism in New Game Plus, an item needed to unlock the Rebirth ending, an ending that sees James refusing to accept Mary's death and trying to resurrect her with the help of the items needed to commence the ritual. The white chrism is also seen in the original Silent Hill 2 in the sub-scenario Born from a Wish. This is an item that Ernest Baldwin needs to conduct a ritual to bring back his late daughter after she passed away some time ago. In Heaven's Night, you can find a couple of references to pop culture media, most notably inspirations behind the Silent Hill games. By the bar, you can find Jacob's Lagger, a reference to Jacob's Ladder, and Ale Peaks, a reference to Twin Peaks. Close by, you can find a sticker of Robbie the Rabbit, a mascot for a lakeside amusement park. Finally, in the Lost and Found bin, you can find items such as a wallet, a ring, and black shades. If we take into account the black shades, this could be referencing Sybil Bennett, a police officer from Silent Hill 1, who's also seen wearing black shades in the intro FMB. The ring is possibly connected to James, as he is seen missing his ring from his ring finger in the opening cinematic. Finally, a nurse's uniform can be found in one of the booths. This is a reference to a nurse from Silent Hill 4 called Rachel. A similar looking nurse outfit is found in Silent Hill 4 in South Ashfield Heights. While in Nightmare Brookhaven Hospital, you can find a room on the second floor that has a bed and a nightstand of medication besides it. This is connected to Mary, specifically during her time in the hospital with her unknown illness. This also appears in the original Silent Hill 2. During the cutscene where we see James and Maria skipping Pyramid Head, Maria, unfortunately, doesn't make it into the elevator, proceeding to get pierced in the left side of her abdomen by Pyramid Head's great spear. During Night West Southvale, if you were to go back to Jack's Inn to Room 108, you could find Maria's classic outfit from the original Silent Hill 2, noticeably with a change in the fabric with a visible stain on the left side, the same spot where she got pierced. While exploring Night West Southvale, you can stumble upon a bus that reads Silent Hill School Bus. This could be referencing Midwich Elementary School, a school located in Old Silent Hill from Silent Hill 1. There also happens to be a similar looking school bus seen by Midwich Elementary School. In Silent Hill Historical Society, there's a painting depicting the steamboat Little Baroness, a ship that sailed across the lake in November 1918. However, in a tragic incident, the boat sank for unknown reasons,
Nice.
resulting in 14 people on board succumbing to their deaths.
I would like
In
to have
Silent Hill
that
the
flame,
arcade,
please.
the Little Baroness plays a huge plot point surrounding the story. Characters Eric and Tina, along with their club from university, visit Silent Hill to uncover the mystery behind the voyage and the deaths surrounding it. While exploring Silent Hill Historical Society, there is a painting of the founding members, picturing all of them sitting together in the original Silent Hill 2. The same painting can also be found in the Silent Hill Historical Society. However, the painting depicted is actually not the founding members themselves, but rather the members of Saint, the development team behind Silent Hill 2. There is a painting depicting Pyramid Head in the Silent Hill Historical Society, with an iconic pose that shows Pyramid Head standing tall with his great sword, with hanging caged bodies floating above. The painting, Misty Day Remains of Judgment, is a painting both James and Mary view upon their visit to Silent Hill during their vacation and right before Mary gets sick with her incurable disease. This painting stuck to James's memory, and because of James's desire to seek punishment for his sins and crimes against Mary, this would idealize into the physical manifestation we know as Pyramid Head. Before jumping down the hole to Toluca Prison, you can find a painting called Crimson and White Banquet. This painting depicts the town's executioners, dating back to the early history of Silent Hill. At this time, the town's cults, the Order, stole from the natives and claimed the land for themselves. The Valtiel sector would perform public and ritualistic executions, wearing red hoods over their heads and an executioner outfit that closely resembles Pyramid Head. Before I continue this entry, I want to give a fair warning as this will contain a jump scare. For those easily unsettled and upset with loud noises, please skip to view this as timestamp to skip this section. While in Toluca Prison, if you enter the women's restroom down the hallway while in the horror area, you can get a subversion of expectations when trying to enter one of the restroom stalls that is met with a jump scare when you leave. This same jump scare is also seen in the original Silent Hill 2 with the same setup. In the basement area of Toluca Prison, you can find a jail cell that has 3 paintings. In one of these paintings, you can find one titled Burning Man, showing a building burning on fire. This building in question is the Lakeview Hotel. To support this, if we head into the Lakeview Hotel employee section area, specifically the break room, we can find a heater with a text that reads, "I'm Johnny, one hot guy." This implies that Johnny caused the heater to malfunction and caught the surrounding curtain on fire, causing the series of events to burn down Lakeview Hotel. Further supporting this is the sign above the entrance to Lakeview Hotel that reads, "Special places spark fires that warm our hearts forever." After the cutscene of James meeting Maria in the lab room, if you were to return back to the same room, you can find Maria humming the song Promise, the main theme of Silent Hill 2. After the cutscene of you go to the piano that Laura was hiding behind, you can interact with the piano. If you listen closely, the piano keys play the song. Laura plays the piano. While ascending the stairs from the first floor to the second floor of Lakeview Hotel, you can find a wall of paintings. One of these paintings references a familiar household, the Gillespie house from Silent Hill 1. The Gillespie house is home to both Dahlia Gillespie and Alessa Gillespie, located in their hometown of Old Silent Hill. In the dark ending, you come to the revelation that the events of Silent Hill 2 Remake were orchestrated by a Shiba Inu named Mira. In this ending, there are a couple of neat references to the original Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill Paki's Live. In the original dog ending, James would speak in Japanese by his original voice actor, Guy Sihi. In the remake's dog ending, James speaks in Polish by his voice actor, Luke Roberts.
Bitch, prawda.
The monitor displays a picture of Mira that is taken from one of these promotional images from Silent Hill Paki's Live. In the UFO ending, James summons a UFO that is revealed to have the original James Sutherland from the original Silent Hill 2, accompanied by an alien known as the Greys. The original UFO ending of the original Silent Hill 2 initially had Harry Mason, the protagonist of Silent Hill 1, accompanying the Greys. And that is all the secrets and Easter eggs that I have for you today. I hope this was informational to help enlighten those who are new to the Silent Hill franchise, or maybe to those who are old veterans that have been there since the beginning, but still like to have a bit of a refresher every now and then. Anyways, that's me. Thank you for watching, please have a great day, stay safe, and goodbye.
I am the samurai.
Subscribing if you're new or just haven't, leave a like and commenting, or become a member for perks and early access. If it helps, it does really appreciate it. How to keep these videos coming. Either way, this is a compilation of Elden 2024 theories and mysteries, truly uncensored. I also edited all of this myself, so no AI. Hope you guys enjoy it. Laugh tracks brainwashes. I was watching The Big Bang Theory the other day, and just started to overanalyze the laugh track, and became strangely hyper-aware of words interrupting their silence and between jokes, and that got me thinking more about the concept of laugh track, and why it was even a thing. It just got weirder the longer I thought about it. The first laugh track is said to have originated on the radio, when they captured audience reaction to comedians. The first television show to use the canned laughter, known as the Douglas laugh track, was titled The Hank McKean Show. then became the norm in mainstream sitcoms. The laugh track is generic and sounds the same for every show. Of course, there's variations, but it was always the same set of them. So why use the same thing over and over again? It's just cheesy, but it works. In a 2019 study by the University College London, researchers found that laugh tracks make jokes seem funnier than they actually are. They had people listen to a joke and then rate how funny it was, and compared it to the reaction of another group of people that had listened to the exact same joke, except this time the joke was followed by laughter, finding that yes, people rated the joke with a laugh track higher than the joke without one, confirming that laugh tracks do make jokes seem funnier. They also discovered that the harder somebody laughs at a joke, the funnier it is perceived by the person watching, as opposed to a light laughter, which receives slightly less ratings but is still rated as funnier than without a laugh track at all. It got me thinking, do I really enjoy The Big Bang Theory, or was it all just brainwashing?
Once again, you've fallen for one of my classic pranks. Bazinga.
Joy of Satan website. The Joy of Satan website is a strangely eerie experience upon first glance, and especially unsettling if you simply happen upon it by accident, as I had. The layout of the website is nothing special, and in fact holds that Wild West internet feel about it, as discussed with the LOL Superman section. It has a HTML black background with red text, highlighting the important sections on the website. The most outright disturbing part of the website is by far the ritual section, which gives you pages upon pages of different demons and deities to summon, for whatever reason you could possibly fathom. It even has instructions on how to summon the devil himself, should you wish to do that for some strange reason. The website itself would serve as a strange find in its own right. However, the history behind it is a small rabbit hole that I did not expect to uncover. The website is an information bank for a whole sect of the satanic religion, Satanism. The history of Satanism as a religion is complex and multifaceted, reflecting a variety of beliefs and practices that have evolved over centuries. Despite its controversial and often misunderstood nature, Satanism has developed into a distinct religious and philosophical movement with various expressions and organizations. The concept of Satan as the embodiment of evil has roots in Judeo-Christianity theology. However, the idea of Satanism as an organized practice is relatively modern. During medieval and early modern Europe, accusations of Satanism were often levied during witch hunts and inquisitions. Individuals were accused of worshiping Satan and performing malevolent rituals, though these accusations were typically unfounded and fueled by fear and superstition. In the 19th century, literary and artistic movements began to explore satanic themes more openly. Figures like the French writer Charles Baudelaire and the English occultist Aleister Crowley contributed to the growing fascination with Satan as a symbol of rebellion and individualism. Crowley, in particular, with his philosophy of failure, emphasized the personal freedom and pursuit of one's true will, which often included provocative references to satanic imagery. This period marked the beginning of a shift where Satan was increasingly seen not just as a figure of Christian evil, but as a symbol of defiance against established norms and moral codes. Beyond these organized forms of Satanism, there are also individual and smaller groups who practice forms of theistic Satanism, which involves the worship or veneration of Satan as a literal deity or spiritual entity, and this is where the Joy of Satan Ministries seem to fall under. The Joy of Satan Ministries is a controversial organization founded by Maxime Dietrich, and as the name suggests, is a branch of Satanism. However, the Joy of Satan website goes a step beyond just being an unnerving site. The site itself has many strange and downright unsavory topics on their forum, some of which include forums for 13 to 19-year-olds who wish to establish a relationship with Satan, as well as its underlying ties to United States neo-Nazi movements. In fact, its founder is the wife of a well-known neo-Nazi leader. If you comb through the old archives of the website, much of it reads as conspiratorial and nonsensical ramblings, including 11 conspiracies and anti-Semitic racist rants. The site is not disturbing due to its occult themes, but instead from the pure hatred and rage that seethes from beneath its code. The Russian elites with glowing eyes. This enigmatic mystery remains largely unexplored and discussed, but sheer intrigue has captivated me. A clip, seemingly from a documentary, was shared on Reddit's r/exposing cabal rituals. The footage depicts a high-profile nightclub event in Russia, brimming with socialites and elites, with Sergei Shnurov, a Russian musician and songwriter, providing the entertainment. The camera sweeps across the room, filled with smiling faces, when suddenly the lights go out, revealing several individuals with glowing eyes amidst the crowd. Shnurov recalls the event with detail and making notice the glowing eyes and flesh that unsettled him.
Why you have to be so good?
Stating that he doesn't remember anything at home. When asked where he was names of individuals whose eyes were glowing,
Oh, what the
appears
fuck,
sweaty and
man?
perspired as he recognized names. Renowned supermodel
Too strong,
Natalia
too strong.
Bornova was
Oh, I
also
can summon it, okay,
is
good.
interviewed in the same documentary, noting that she also saw the glowing eyes and that it was awful, though she hurriedly tries to wave it off as an effect of the people using stem cells. It is important to note that there is no scientific research proven that stem cells cause human eyes to glow. Therefore, it is unknown where she got this explanation from. Human eyes do not naturally glow in the dark like those of some animals, due to the differences in eye structures and biology. The glow often seen in animals, like cats and dogs, is caused by a reflective layer called the tapetum lucida, located behind the retina. This layer helps animals to see better in low light conditions by reflecting light back through the retina, effectively giving them improved night vision. The absence of this reflective layer means that light does not bounce back through the retina, resulting in human eyes not exhibiting the glowing effect seen in animals. Additionally, human eyes are adapted for Liurnia nighttime vision rather than nocturnal vision. Our visual system is monochromes, specialize the photoreceptor cells that take colors and composing light rather than rocks, which are more sensitive to light.
No.
Dominance in the eyes of
Ah.
Therefore, our eyes are not optimized for seeing in the dark and do not possess the reflective structures that would
Maybe I
cause
should
them to
overwhelm
glow. Therefore, there is no
But the
biological
mercenary is
reason
good.
that the eyes, as seen in the video, would be glowing. It is true that sometimes the flash of the camera is bright enough to reflect directly off of the retina, creating a glow-like effect. However, it is unlikely this camcorder was using its flash, nor would a flashlight be powerful enough to reflect off of the crowd in such a manner to cause this anomaly. If you look closely at the woman in the middle of the crowd, she is faced away from the camera, and yet her eyes still reflect glow. And not all of the people in the crowd have glowing eyes. Some people have stated that they may just be wearing contacts, though it would be incredibly strange for multiple people in the crowd to be utilizing fancy dress, UV/glow-in-the-dark contact lenses at an event as prestigious as this one is. There's not much coverage of this small mystery online, and no news articles have cited this. Thus, it remains a huge, obscure internet mystery, open to interpretation and conspiracy theories alike. After a live stream of him taking his own life circulated widely on social media platforms, including TikTok, Mignot, a 33-year-old man from Mississippi, streamed his own death on Facebook Live, which was subsequently shared and re-uploaded to other platforms, including TikTok. The incident sparked widespread shock and concern, raising significant questions about the responsibility of social media platforms in preventing the spread of graphic and harmful content. On TikTok, specifically,
Holy
users
shit.
encountered videos or references to the live stream, often inadvertently due to the platform's algorithm and users' sharing behavior.
That's a huge jump.
Isaac Cappy was an American actor and musician who gained some notoriety not for his acting career, but for his involvement in various controversies and conspiracy theories. Cappy appeared in small roles in films such as Thor and Terminator Salvation. However, he became more widely known for his public accusations against several Hollywood celebrities, whom he claimed were involved in nefarious activities. Cappy made headlines when he accused several high-profile celebrities, including Tom Hanks and Seth Green, of being involved in CSA and other criminal activities. These accusations were part of a broader set of conspiracy theories related to Hollywood and elite circles. He used platforms like Twitter and Instagram to broadcast his accusation and the theories, which gained him a following amongst the conspiracy theorists. Concerns about Cappy's mental health were raised as his behavior became increasingly erratic. He made several videos in which he appeared distressed and claimed to be under threats. Eventually, on May 13, 2019, Isaac Cappy died by taking his own life. He reportedly jumped off a bridge in Arizona and was struck by a vehicle. Prior to his passing, he posted a lengthy note on Instagram where he expressed regrets and apologized to people he felt he had hurt. Cappy's story is often cited in discussions about the impact of conspiracy theories and that sometimes they go too far and have tragic outcomes for individuals deeply involved in such narratives. His death only sparked more confusion, though, as his fans and people who have been following the story closely on social media were confused as to why he was suddenly backtracking. Soon, his passing became a conspiracy itself. It seems as though not many people knew of Cappy's allegations at the time, and that they had a resurgence on TikTok lately. At least that's how I found them. The Cappy saga is a disturbing tale spanning multiple social media pages, and we will never know if there is some truth to these stories that come from Hollywood. The United States government is storing 1.4 billion pounds of cheese in caves. Take a state like Missouri, everything looks normal above ground, but below you will find thousands of pounds of American cheese. And why exactly there's cheese down there? Well, it's due to the United States government putting it there because we have a surplus of cheese. There are hundreds of thousands of pounds of American cheese just stored there at a cool temperature of 36 degrees Fahrenheit. Why do we have so much of this government-owned cheese? Well, there's the national dairy shortage of 1972. In response to this dairy shortage, there was a 30% inflation on dairy products. In order to alleviate this, they poured $2 billion into the dairy industry. And this, of course, incentivized the farmers to create more and more dairy. This, of course, would lead to overproduction, and whatever was not sold in the market was purchased by the United States government. And in order to not let dairy expire, they converted all of it into cheese, so it could last longer on the shelf, solving the very problem they themselves created. They had so much cheese they didn't even know what to do with it, so they started to find places to store it in, and they even ran out of places to store it as well. Like in 1981, when Ronald Reagan's administration began to publicly distribute the government cheese because it was starting to go bad. At that point, the United States government, according to John R. Block, had over 60 million of these cheese blocks given away by the Temporary Emergency Food Assistance Program through community centers.
Sorry, natingin ako ng tingin sa map dahil hindi ko alam kung anong gagawin ko.
Was finally created as an offshoot of the Department of Agriculture. This department would encourage Americans to drink more dairy products, like God's milk, that had a lot of famous celebrities backing and pushing the drink, even though 36% of Americans are lactose intolerant, as well as the fact that the Department of Health and Human Services has shown repeatedly that consuming dairy products today is not healthy. Dairy management even helped to bail out Domino's in the 2010 recession in order to keep cheese consumption high. At one point in the 1980s, they even suggested dumping all of the cheese into the world's ocean in order to deal with the surplus. A suggestion by the USDA at the time, as it was the most cost-effective way to deal with that problem.
That's a
The
big
Adventures
dog.
of Milo and Otis. This 1986 film is about two animals, Milo, an orange cat, and Otis, a pug. In the film, they go on an adventure, and basically they just get into trouble, having to deal with other creatures in their environment, like bears or a snake, like it's depicted in the beginning of the film, where it's around the kitties, leading people to question of whether or not this snake was venomous, and if anybody on the crew was doing anything to protect the kitties. All of this led to animal welfare organizations to allege that they abandoned animal cruelty and abused these animals in order to create their farm and make money. A lot of people who but
Fuck
they had to
me.
redo the scene multiple times, leading to a lot of cats surrounded. There's also the infamous crab scene where a crab hooks onto a kitty's nose, and the cat reacts just as expected, screaming in pain. The cat's screeches of pain are drowned out in the American version as opposed to the Japanese version, which contains the unedited sound. There's also a scene where the bear is trying to drown the pug. As it swims around it, the bear finally gets a hold of the pug and manhandles him, throwing him around. A very uncomfortable scene to watch, knowing all the information we know now. Lotteries target the poor. Lotteries like the Powerball and All-American Lottery being offered in 45 states have had jackpots reach up to $2 billion, offering those in the lower and middle class a hope of becoming billionaires, or at least millionaires after all the losses. They package to them a dream of being able to escape a 9-to-5 job and never having to worry about money again. Beach vacations, fancy cars, houses. If money can buy it, you can have it. It's incredible that they're even allowed to do this when the chances of winning the Powerball are 1 in 200 according to this Wikipedia. That's what they can in business school. On the other hand, state lotteries are known for giving a portion back to the community by investing in things like funding education, economic growth, state parks, natural habitats, veteran services, outdoor school, and even gambling addiction treatment, which just seems like a cycle. But at the end of the day, does this justify taking money from those in need and enabling gamblers by normalizing that kind of money? There's also the fact that lottery winners often end up losing proceeds due to reckless spending. They should be questioning if doing this is even ethical, because at the end of the day, anyone could win the jackpot and become powerful. I also often wonder if all the money is actually going to these programs they claim they're sending it to. Like, do we have public access to the cash flow of these lottery systems? I live in Oregon and I tried to find anything related to the question, and yay, I found something. The Oregon State Lottery and Enterprise Fund of the State of Oregon Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And yeah, they seem to be pretty transparent on where the money comes and goes. An interesting thing to note, sports wagering sales have increased in the state by $23 million from 2022 to 2023. I wonder who's currently promoting sports wagering all over the place. And also scratchy ticket sales have decreased by $5 million during the same period. I guess they're old school now, but I grew up on these after fun trips at the gas station. I got to scratching and sometimes would get $20 at most. What I've noticed though is that a lot of these lottery retailers are close to low-income communities. When you start heading more towards the suburbs, you see lists and less corner shops selling lottery numbers and scratch tickets. It's almost like they know who their target demographic are. Those who are financially struggling and want to get rich quick, working in wage jobs and are living paycheck to paycheck. And that's crazy when the state lottery's mission is to operate a lottery with the highest standards of security and integrity
Whoa!
to maximize profits for the reward being commensurate with the public good. Commensurate to mean in proportion to fair and appropriate. The mission statement comes from the Oregon Lottery, a very conflicted and rather charged statement to say the least. I mean, they have to earn maximum profits while trying to keep to their integrity while running a lottery business. The company SafeGraph was used to collect the geolocation data on cell phones, finding that the customer base of a lottery retailer were often locals in the area. And the main thing keeping lotteries afloat are repeat customers, people that keep on buying. I went to this website by the Howard Center of Investigative Journalism, where it lets you see the info of each states with the state lottery, and how many lottery retailers are in America, compared to the median county income of $69,000 in this case. Okay, so a county is split into tracts, little areas, and in this tract, the median household income is $17,700. And guess how many retailers are in the area? 17. Yep, 17 total lottery retailers in one tract in a little area. Now compared to a tract where the median income is way higher, like down here where the median income is $102,000 with 0 retailers located in the area or tract. When you start using this map, you'll start to notice clusters of lottery retailers, and when you hover your mouse over the tract that they're all within, you find that the median income of the area is almost always significantly lower compared to the state median. The worrying thing about this all is that these companies that are in charge of running the state-backed and increase
Fucking
productivity,
use this.
leaving the state with only
There you
one
go.
job to oversee them, as they pioneered
I don't
legal
keep
gambling
mapping the mapper.
in the United States. Gambling is only going to become bigger. Take a look at the sports wagering market and how much they have invested in advertising alone. As the ways to gamble become more complex, the state-backed lotteries will need to adapt and get more from these
Not good, not good, not good.
who have more experience in the field, making this a very devastating thing for the public. Leave the World Behind. This was labeled as Obama's movie when it came out, officially, but all of the artists labeled it as such because somehow it was related to Obama. He claimed that they were right the film. It was actually a film adaptation of a 2020 book with the same name, directed by Sam Esmail. Barack and Michelle Obama are credited as executive producers though. Obama was a big fan of the film and wanted to do the film justice, giving his opinions and notes to the director after the script was already finished. But people believed that he gave the director detailed insider information as to how a catastrophic events like this one would go down in the real world. Because of course, being the former president means you get to know when the world needs and how apparently. But basically the events inside of the movie are said to have come from Barack Obama's insider knowledge. Many believe that this film is a form of predictive programming. Basically that claims all fictional media might have some kind of whether that be a strange scene
Not good.
in order to get the people prepared or reveal an event that will occur in the future. Say for instance, many people say that there is evidence of predictive programming in movies and shows about the horrors that happen all day before the events actually occur. Many speculate that just like in the movie,
I like your
there will be
style.
mass events where an entire
Got it?
nation is under a cyber attack. In this case, the United States, dooming a large portion of the population
That's
because
it?
we can't survive
Oh,
with
shit,
a white
shit, shit.
phone. Would Obama have insider knowledge? I'd bet on it, but cyber attacks and the dangers surrounding them are becoming more prevalent in our culture. And as we become more entangled with technology,
Not much here.
we'll continue
Just
to
those
fear.
roaming
I
enemies.
don't think Obama has really brought anything new to the table other than getting his film more publicity.
What's that?
Ghislaine Maxwell. If
Oh,
you've watched
I don't
a
need
few
to know
of these
that.
theory videos, you most likely know that Ghislaine Maxwell was Jeffrey Epstein's partner in crime. And the
That's a
last
big
remaining
castle.
in the case between Maxwell and her accuser, Virginia Roberts, there was tons of evidence brought to the table that showed her involvement.
Should I
with
stop
Jeffrey
horsing
Epstein's
around?
operation. They would often speak in code when fixing each other. One example was the word massage being used as code for the word sex, in reference to
Stop
their
dancing.
underage parties that they would host to
Oh,
the
shit.
victims. This would prove that she acknowledged being guilty, as she knew using the word sex would entail something illegal would take place at these parties. It would also be noted that she got so mad when questioned by the court that she knocked the reporter's computer off the conference room table. One of her house workers had also seen inappropriate photos open on her computer, and then the worker was threatened to not tell anyone about the things that she had seen at the house, telling him that he's going to be sorry if he dares talk about her or the events that took place at the house. Actually, one part in the summary caught my eye, reading, "I'm 55, and I'm afraid. First of all, I don't have a job, but I'm glad this is on tape because I don't want anything to happen to me. This is the way they treat me." The immigrant house workers experience working for her. One of the people who participated in acts, Alan Dershowitz, through the suggestion of Jeffrey Epstein, the famous Harvard law professor and criminal defense attorney, as well as Jeffrey's best bro. They were said to have a very close relationship. Drake Bell. Recently, Drake Bell has been chosen to keep his own quiet on set, which exposes news that occurred at Nickelodeon. Brian Pig and Dan Schneider being the two culprits. Of course, most people already have known of the stuff that Dan Schneider has done.
You're kinda
the
big.
whole feet fetish thing that he
Look different.
shows. This film elaborates on that furthermore and also exposes the sexism and other inappropriate things that occurred in the offices of Nickelodeon in the writers' room. But the new thing that this documentary does bring to light is the essay that was committed against Drake Bell on behalf of Brian Pitt, somebody that worked on set, a well-known Nickelodeon dialogue. He would plead no contest to a charge of with a minor under 16, as well as performing a what with the 14 and 15-year-old. And this
Shit.
was all in connection with Bell's case. Brian would go on to spend only 16 months in prison, and he would be forced to register as a
Okay, so I
one
just
of the
need to
weirdest
fuck him up
gigs
again.
he's had
He
is
doesn't stop.
on all that.
Oh,
Shows like
shit,
Boy Meets
it
World,
fights
the
back.
Amanda Show, and what I like about him, he also was an acting coach for Olds, starring Shane
It does,
Hoff.
man.
The craziest thing about this
Shit.
all was
Oh,
that
shit.
Dick was released from prison in 2005 and was hired by Disney Channel to work on The Sweet Life of Walter. He did voiceover work, but
Huh.
he had no interaction.
Oh, shit.
But
I
either
missed
way,
the time.
he was still working for Disney, meaning that this guy had a lot of connections in the industry and would still be able to get a job anywhere he liked in Hollywood. I mean, he found a job in a kids show after receiving all those charges and having to register as an offender. He would also go on to work in the 2008 movie Bedtime Stories, 2015's Freak of Nature, and 2012's series
there
Anger
you are.
Management. One of the craziest responses to the film comes from Dan Schneider himself, where he goes on and defends himself in the form of an interview that was called out as a PR stunt and was simply to save face. Aiden Ross attended Michael Rubin's all-white party. This party is controversial and is known as the Illuminati or Ritual Party. And a lot of people have this view because of the amount of celebrities that attend and the fact that all the attendees have to look white. And for the most part, these are A-list celebrities. So you see people like Leonardo DiCaprio, James Cameron, and even Travis Scott. And all of this happens at Michael Rubin's $50 million Hamptons mansion. Leading some to speculate that these are all just puppets in the industry that are being controlled and that they're forced to go to this party as a sort of ritual. There's also the famous picture where Logan was presented in a strange manner and killed by Michael Rubin, leading some to believe that this was a humiliation ritual conducted by Michael Rubin in order for Logan to be accepted into the higher tier of celebrities. Despite people believing that Twitch or cake streamers aren't popular enough to attend these sort of parties,
Did he just
Aiden
fucking
Ross
bite
was
his arm off?
surprisingly invited and attended the party. He
What,
announced
you?
this in one of the streams where his chat was beginning to push him about why he was attending this whole party and if he was in the Illuminati, leading him to laugh it off and say that it wasn't anything like that. Either way, his chat kept on calling him out and claimed that he sold his soul.
I'm basically being ran like Britney Spears. You understand? I'm being controlled. I am not in control anymore. I am being controlled. So now I'm on my own, and I have to. I'm out and I'm being controlled, literally on puppet string. So basically, I'm getting told like a dog do X, Y, and Z.
There's also the whole Meek Mill jumping like a bunny thing, where Michael Rubin made Meek Mill jump as a bunny for him because he lost a tennis match, adding more flame to the fire of the whole P. Diddy situation, which Meek Mill is involved in. Creepy anti-piracy screens. The anti-piracy screen, whether real or fan-made, is a screen bug which shows up on a person pirating video games, TV channels, or other media. Anti-piracy screens are designed to protect digital content from unauthorized copying and usage. Most of the time, these are creepypastas, but there are a few real screens, like the Donkey Kong series of privacy screens. In Donkey Kong Country 3, there can be found a creepy anti-piracy screen that displays a warning text not allowing you to play the game. The most unsettling thing about it, though, is the background that they used. They used the Game Over background. Two of the characters were in jail, and they were staring off into the distance. All this while they're encapsulated in a field of dark, and in the background there is unsettling music playing. In the video Mario Party DS anti-piracy screen, there is gameplay footage of a minigame, but then it's quickly interrupted by a anti-piracy screen that orders you to destroy the game card and says to turn it off. It then glitches out and takes us to a more creepy and unsettling piracy screen, depicting Mario and all the other characters in jail behind bars, with text flashing, ordering you to turn off the console. Although this was considered to be a fake anti-piracy screen, people still appreciated the art, and so people continue to make them even creepier, like the Super Mario Odyssey one that depicts Mario with a bloody face, and the text reading "You are a thief, warning, pirating video games is a serious crime, which is punishable by 10 years in prison." describing in detail a place that you're not actually at. Something that is supposedly testable by science if done in the correct ways. Or at least that's what the believers of remote viewing believe. And the interesting thing about this topic is that the CIA actually has a few papers out on this. It's believed that remote viewing is like a lost sense in our human consciousness that anybody is able to access under the right conditions, which allow you to be open to receiving information telepathically. It's considered to be a psychic power, and many people ask for this type of service when wanting a psychic to spy on their significant other or anything else. Some people believe that there's a scientific explanation for this, while others believe it's more of a supernatural phenomenon, leading to multiple different definitions of what remote viewing actually is and what it consists of. But here's how the CIA defines remote viewing. Studies of paranormal phenomena have nearly always been associated with controversy. Despite the controversy concerning the nature and existence, many individuals and organizations continue to be avidly interested in these phenomena. The intelligence community is no exception. Beginning in the 1970s, it has conducted a program intended to investigate the application of one paranormal phenomenon, remote viewing, or the ability to describe locations one has not visited, of which one has no prior knowledge. Now, this CIA draft report is titled An Evaluation of the Remote Viewing Program, Research and Operational Applications, and it was published on September 22nd, 1995. In order to evaluate the research program, the panel consisted of doctors from University of California to University of Oregon. In addition to their extensive credentials, they were selected to represent both sides of the paranormal controversy.
I need to find the map
first. Paranormal interpretations positively, while Dr. Hyman was selected to represent the more skeptical position. However, both are viewed as fair and open-minded scientists, as explained in the CIA.
Magpapatay na ako ng stream at baka magubad ang asawa ko. Bye!